Hey, it's Nub Tactics, or as some of you may know me, your resident novice Aoko player. After having to deal with several cursed interactions with respect to clashing several days ago, I decided to lab out how clashes work. The results I found were pretty interesting, and I wanted to share them with you all. If you have ever been ruined by an input not coming out, please make sure to watch this video, because hopefully it will help to demystify the mind-numbing nature of the Kamone input buffer, and as well how clashes and screen freezes affect your input. Anyway, we're going to need to start with the most basic stuff first, so let's go over the rules of canceling. Assuming you haven't used any other move when you connect a normal, canceling appears to operate via what I'm going to call a cancel priority stack. What this means is that during the cancel buffer, you can input any sequence of moves you'd like, and when the first available frame comes to execute the next move, you will use the highest priority move on the stack. To illustrate what I mean, take a look at this 2-hit block string, while keeping an eye on the inputs. In the first example, I pressed B, then pianoed the A to C keys during the cancel buffer, and in the second, I pianoed the other way, C to A instead. However, in both cases, my block string came out to be 5B, 5C. 5C has a higher priority than 5A, so it took precedent in both cases. To the best of my knowledge, the cancel stack priority is as follows: jump cancel, A normals, B normals, C normals, moon skills, motion inputs and special moves, moon drive, and then arc drive. As long as your fingers are fast enough, you can overwrite the stack priority as many times as you'd like, and at the start of your next actionable frame, you will do the next queued input of the highest priority. With respect to certain moves in each category, the game seems to favor specific moves over others. For example, Aoko's Beam series is of higher priority than her Orb series, as you can see with this example of 236A overriding 214C, which is an EX move. This information is mostly trivial, but there is one scenario where it is very important, which I will cover later on. Now that we've gone over that, let's start talking about the different types of screen freezes. Very broadly, you can be put into 3 screen freeze states, which I will label as Aggressor, Defender, and Forced Freeze State. Forced Freeze State is the easiest state to cover and refers to any freeze state that's caused by one of your actions that you cannot act out of or redirect in any meaningful way. This includes the clash freezes caused by your own empowered moon skills and blowback edge normals, as well as the screen freeze resulting from EX moves and arc drive. We won't really discuss these freeze states because you literally can't do anything out of them except commit to whatever move you just did, with the only exception requiring your opponent to moon drive, in which case you can counter moon drive. Aggressor Freeze State is any freeze state where your input buffers continue registering from the moment that the freeze occurs. The 2 versions of Aggressor Freeze State to note are Shield Freeze, if you are the player that's shielding the attack, and clashes between 2 attacks, which grant both players Aggressor Freeze State. Shield Freeze is not particularly interesting to talk about, as you can only respond with limited options, and on top of that, most people will now delay their shield follow-ups rather than buffering them in the current metagame anyway. Clash freezes are fairly important to talk about, as it is the scenario I was talking about earlier where cancel priority matters. So like, I'm a baby Aoko player, and one of my go-to block strings is 5B2C. Now, what happens when I'm in an ambiguous situation and I clash while autopiloting this block string? Ideally, it would be nice if I could overwrite my 2C cancel with a 2A cancel instead, because in a clash situation, you generally want to throw out your fastest move after the clash. Unfortunately, with the stack priority and the nature of Clash Freeze as explained earlier, this simply isn't possible. This is really bad for characters whose autopilot strings have poor frame data. Aoko's 2C is 12 frame startup, being among the slowest in the game for normal attacks. With that in mind, in ambiguous situations where you might clash, you need to be a little more careful about delaying and staggering your sequences so that you can react to clashes with a different move without committing to a slower attack. Otherwise, you may have to go God Gamer mode and do a cancel override into a special move during the Clash Freeze. Additionally, many of you who follow the patch notes may already know this, but I will reiterate for good measure that command normals that ordinarily have no available follow-up can now be jump cancelled. That's all of the notable nuances for the Aggressor Freeze state, so let's move on to Defender Freeze. The Defender Freeze state is any freeze state where your offensive inputs becomes ignored for any portion of the freeze until a certain number of frames prior to the end of the freeze state. These include shield freezes if you are the player whose attack got shielded, EX move and arc drive screen freeze, and the freeze resulting from clashing against moon skills and charged normals. Very notably, freezes of this variety will also throw out any pre-buffers you may have inputted. So, if you threw out a 5B and then input 5C to cancel before 5B made contact, then you will lose the 5C input when you get put into a Defender Freeze state. Note that I've explicitly stated offensive inputs, so you are allowed to buffer motions towards a special move and then input the attack button to complete the special input on your first bufferable frame. Here are some examples to show what I mean. This Tono dummy is set to jump and then EXDP. If I hold the shield button during the freeze, the game is programmed to execute shield on the first actionable frame, regardless of when I started holding it. In this case, that's frame 79 on the dummy recording. Now, attempting to buffer a normal will show that it will successfully buffer on frame 77, but not on frame 76. This means that if you want to react to an EX move with an input, you only have 3 frames of buffer window to execute it on the first actionable frame. You do have a bit more time to input the motion if you were trying to do a special move or EX, but the window to hit your attack button is only 3 frames. To put this in perspective, the ground tech and hard knockdown reversal buffer is 8 frames. Showing off another example with Moondrive clashes, the clash here happened on frame 4 of the recording, the first audio cue being on frame 5, and the game advances on frame 29, meaning that the game freezes for a total of 25 frames. Of these freeze frames, the first frame in which you can buffer an action is frame 21, so just like with the knockdowns and techs, you have 8 frames of buffer window. To put this another way, 17 of your 25 freeze frames, or just under 66% of Moondrive screen freeze, are meaningless with respect to any attack inputs. This is why you can get situations like this, where you input a cancel multiple times and nothing happens. You need to train your reaction reflex to delay the response you want so that it will buffer properly on the input reader. And this is just my opinion, but I think the fact that shield, Moondrive, and charge move clash freezes last longer means that it's even easier to have your inputs get swallowed up if you over-anticipate and input your response too soon. I hope this helps to explain why there are times where it seems like you can never get the move you want out during a freeze situation. Hopefully, you can take this knowledge to improve the timing in which you input reversals or reactionary actions in response to freezes in Type Lumina. Until next time, I'll see you all in game, hopefully.